Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody in between, welcome to another episode of the Chaps Chat Cats, a part of the Hoops Crew Media Network. My name is Jake, and I'm joined in the virtual studio in the middle of a big bloody storm by Sambo and Johnny. How are we, chaps?
Fantastic.
Nothing like the risk of internet dropping out to really give you a bit of energy, a bit of boost going into the pod record.
Absolutely.
It could end at
Absolute
any moment.
adrenaline rush.
Just like life. Just like life.
Just like Preston's
Absolutely.
hopes and dreams of making finals.
Oh, Johnny!
Just hook it to my veins!
Yes, love it. Love it, love it, love it. On the show tonight, at least, this is what we're going to attempt to do in the middle of a storm. Pulling back the curtain, country bumpkin internet up here. Literally went to press record. Big cloud of rain came. Away goes Jake. So I may disappear at times throughout the show. Hopefully the thing keeps recording and John and Sam can land the ship. On the show tonight, Cats Out-Duel the Dogs in round 11. We're going to recap that. Bit of news to discuss on the Patreon show as a significant legacy Geelong Cat signs on for an extra year at Kardinia Park. Then we'll do some round 12 preview thoughts as Geelong prepares to head over to the West Coast to play the Eagles. So we're going to do all that as usual. Public part of the show is the recap. If you want the news discussion, if you want round 12 preview, if you want our Cats v Eagles trivia game, make sure you go on over and sign up for a 7-day free trial on the Hoops Crew Patreon. See what it's all about. There'll be a VFL podcast coming out next couple of days from me discussing Cam Guthrie, Jack Martin, Ted Closey, etc., etc. So if you want that, go on over and unwrap that gift and give it to yourself. Before we get into the show proper, we have to say a big Hoops Crew Media Network thank you to our sponsor. The Hoops Crew Media Network is proudly sponsored by Cyril Cook Florist. Visit them at shop 1211 Leather Street in Breakwater. Phone them on 035 222 2244 or visit their website at www.cyrilcookflorist.com.au and use the offer code GOCATS in the voucher field at checkout to get 20% off your next online purchase.
There'd be 1,000 blossoms bloom.
All right, on we go into the show. The round 11 recap begins. Nothing lasts forever, we are told. The only constant is change. Cast your mind back to the landscape of Kardinia Park in the early 2000s, and those statements are both proven to be true in retrospect. The old ground, a throwback in some ways to suburban football of another era, could not last, transformed now into a truly modern arena capable of hosting Thursday night thrillers between premiership contenders. Changed to the team. Once typical old Geelong, once perennial big stage chokers, those monikers too could not last forever, forced into the pages of history by a modern iteration of the team that has crafted a truly unique 21st century vantage point for itself. Here we go again. The Cats, an incumbent favourite hosting a ferocious, high-scoring, hopeful side in the Dogs. Questions of what the home team can do to keep up with the visiting firepower. The hottest team in the comp against an eternally regenerative powerhouse whose successes are either assumed or ignored and whose occasional failings are explored with a forensic fanaticism usually reserved for deep state conspiracy theorists who enjoy fashioning tinfoil headwear. David King. Mitch Duncan strolls out for the 300th time. I remember him striding out for the first time. Nothing lasts forever. Duncan has aged well, but all players have their time. Duncan has done plenty with his. In the opening 30 minutes, the Cats and Dogs play football befitting the billing of the bout, trading 10 first quarter goals as the visitors take a 5-4-34 to 5-1-31 lead at the first change of ends. The only constant is change, and Geelong enact a powerful second quarter evolution to boot 6 consecutive goals, 3 of them from the boot of a white-hot Jeremy Cameron, the others from Ollie Henry, Tom Atkins and Shannon Neal. A late goal to the Dogs gives them hope, and an early major in the second half fuels the fire. Blow for blow, the sides trade scores. Manor cancelled out by English, Cameron by Karmas, before back-to-back strikes from Neil and Holmes pushed Geelong's margin to 30 points midway through the third term. Nothing lasts forever, and the Dogs have 4 goals in 13 minutes, 6 of the game's next 8 to have the scores locked at 107 to 107 with 10 minutes left in the final term. The narratives, you can feel them building, chaps, on the back of this bullish Bulldogs resurgence. Cats fortress breached again. Dogs claim their big scalp. Geelong good but not great. Cats no danger without Patrick. The headlines print themselves. The only constant is change. But what if you fashion yourself into the agent of change? With the enemy surging towards a win, Geelong transform the game to their will. They carve out 3 goals unanswered, 2 from the monstrous boot of an unbridled Shannon Neal, 1 from the shoe of the ever-buzzing Tyson Stengel. A late strike for Matthew Kennedy, his 3rd of the night, narrows the margin of defeat for the visitors, but the Cats claim yet another famous victory. Nothing lasts forever, especially in footy, we're told. The only constant is change. And I was struck deeply by those ideas as I listened to Mitch Duncan interviewed post-game. Players come and players go, teams rise and teams fall. So why in the 21st century have the Cats, not change, been the constant in the AFL? There's a funny coincidence that bookends Geelong's success from their first 21st century prelim final in 2004 to their most recent one in 2024. Both, of course, were bitterly close defeats to the Brisbane Lions at the MCG. In that time, from 2004 to 2024, the Cats have won 323 games and lost just 131 times. They've played in 47 finals matches and come out on the winning side on more than 50% of occasions. They've won 4 flags since the turn of the century from 6 grand final appearances. Only the Hawks and Lions have won as many, and both have endured difficult times outside of the glow of finals. So why have Geelong been able to refuse the warp of time? I think, chaps, that the answer lies in a player like Mitch Duncan, in his appreciation that is the connections made with people and not the premierships won that are the highlight of his career spent in football. Geelong managed to simultaneously strive for ultimate glory each season without succumbing to the implosion of the object fixation that befalls so many teams who focus in on the flag. Process-driven is the often used term, but who drives the process? People. Geelong has had some pretty remarkable and talented people propelling them to success the last 20 years, and they did it again on Thursday night. It won't last forever, chaps. It won't. But while it does last, if you do anything but bask in the glory of the adventure, I think you're a fucking numpty. Cats 127, Dogs 113. Sambo, your opening thoughts on the game?
I forgot I had to think. I was just wrapped up listening to your intro. I forgot I had to say anything yet. I was just plugged into a podcast here, just listening, just cruising along in
I did speak for like 7 minutes.
That was awesome. Look, it was a great game. It didn't really disappoint. It wasn't necessarily the way I expected it for 100% of the duration, but overall, in hindsight, you look back and you go, yeah, that's about what I knew we were in for. An arm wrestle, a contest for the ages, yet another game of the season that Cats have played in. I think we've played in 6 games of the year so far.
And what lost? My Cannons have lost 2? 1 or 2?
One?
Yeah, 1.
Depends which ones we're thinking of. Yeah,
the Giants one. Which other one did we
Giants
lose?
one.
Yeah,
there's just.
Yeah,
a Giants
I'd say
one,
we're like
sorry.
4-1 in games of the year.
Yeah, minimum. So you
Easily.
can't sniff at that. I did think for a little bit there that we were going to get let off easy. I thought maybe I was going to have a cruisy night on the couch, under a blanket, watching a really chill game. But no, it was edge of the seat, shaking hands kind of stuff. Dinner left beside me to go cold because I couldn't bear to eat. That's what
Same here.
Yeah, you've got
mine is still in the fridge
from that night.
Yeah,
It's a souvenir.
He's not eaten in days. It's just stomach still in knots. Yeah, it was an amazing win, and just yet another reminder of how appreciative, as you've already so eloquently said, Jake, another great reminder of why we should be so appreciative of this club. And it felt like, I know it wasn't a farewell, but it felt like a farewell to Duncan in a really strange way. Yet another farewell to a certain era that it doesn't feel like a relic of the past. Like it feels like the foundation upon what we're now doing. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't feel like that sort of that era that was started and when this success started. It all feels kind of a continuity. It doesn't feel like big rises and then a whole new change. And great appreciation in this game for the new standard bearers of the culture, the flag wavers and the pillar holders of the culture. Shannon Neal in particular. I don't want to get into too many specifics, but just like I was struck by that. I was struck by the things you were saying about Duncan, Jake, and then juxtapose that with the way Shannon Neal conduct himself, and I'm like, here's the next generation of that for me. Like nothing against any of the other. I think a lot of them are. I think Ollie Dempsey's really good in that too, but just something about Shannon Neal's poise in interviews, his grace around, all the questions about, waiting behind Tom Hawkins, all that sort of stuff, and how like gracious he is about his role in the team, and also aware of how important he is to the team as well. Like outside of, everyone's acting like he just started, like he's just played his first game and kicked a bag. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think there's a certain dismissiveness about what he's done to this point from outside, whereas I think he knows. I think the team has got around him, and he's very aware of how much he's brought to the team. So, yeah, weird. It's an exhilarating win, but it's left me in a similar. I think you're the same, Jake, and I'll sorry to you now, Johnny. A sort of a wistful, like after such a big, like exciting game. I don't know why I feel so wistful.
Yeah, it was. It said it was big. It was exciting. As you said, it felt like about halfway through that second quarter, it really felt like we were about to tear the heart out of the Bulldogs. But always in the back of my mind, I was like, "This, if they just get that late goal in the second quarter, they would have that momentum, have that energy. They'll attacking, and then they got that easy goal out the back. And I was like, oh, exactly what we didn't need. Exactly what happens so often is a team that's behind gets that last goal with 10 seconds left, just to give them that little bit of momentum. Good thing is, we were able to strike back pretty early in that third quarter after they kicked the first goal within 20 seconds or whatever it was. But it got very edge of your seat in that fourth quarter. It was pretty nerve-wracking, but you could just see that shift of gameplay about halfway through in that last quarter where the Cats just started to possess it a bit more, start to use their feet a bit more smartly, just, not play into the hands of the Dogs where they wanted that really fast, quick, use their hands, get around our players. We're able to get the ball, possess it, just that little bit longer, just waste a bit of time, not let them have that energy, not let them have that go factor about them, just really drain them of that energy. And it worked. But yeah, it is sort of that wistful feeling of going, yeah, Mitch Duncan's like the last of the old guard, really. It's that last one of the Joel Selwood, Tom Hawkins era. But yeah, he's like the last one that we saw starting his career early on in 2010. Got that premiership by Joel Selwood's side, basically his whole career alongside Hawkins. So yeah, it was a very sort of that, again, that changing of another chapter. As we said, it was like that the book was finished when Selwood retired, and now I feel like we're getting through the last few pages of the epilogue, or is that what it's called? Yeah, epilogue. Sort of like the the epilogue, the last few chapters of the book that just tie the loose ends off. So that's what it's feeling like. But it's also what Sam said. It also is really satisfying to see that it doesn't feel like the Cats that's the end of that era. And now it's on to the new guys to change it up the way they want to change it up. Sort of like they're continuing on with that idea that Joel Selwood instilled in the team, that Tom Harley and Matthew Scarlett and all those other guys instilled of, if we're going to be the best, we're going to play the best, and only the best can be in this side. And if you want to be the best, then you're going to be showing the best and on and off the field. And you can definitely see that's what's happening. But yeah, overall, really exciting game, and really pleasing to see these young guys holding up what it's meant to be a Cats player.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, I really want to get into some of like the nitty gritty. Our thoughts. There's a couple of points in terms of game style and how we felt the Cats, at times controlled the game and then at times maybe lost control of the game and how they surged back. But yeah, it's funny. Sometimes, I try and make the intros, the intro recaps like amusing or entertaining. But I was really struck the next morning. I was washing dishes and I was listening to some music, and like I just kept thinking about the game. I just kept thinking about Mitch Duncan's interview, and as you said, Sambo, not just Mitch Duncan. It was the Shannon Neal interview, the Ollie Dempsey interview. Um, there was a number of younger players interviewed, and I just feel like you can see the mark of previous players, on the current ones, the developing ones, the next generation. And like Mitch Duncan is literally the last character from a sort of a previous novel, in terms of he's the last player that was drafted by the Mark Thompson regime. He was drafted in 2009. So he's literally the last connective tissue on the playing field to that time. And I just think, there was a lot of talk in the lead up. Obviously, we talked about it with Bailey Smith. We talked a lot. I think we didn't talk maybe much about Mitch Duncan and what he's meant, but just the 7th Geelong player to pull on the hoops for 300 or more times. The other names are Tom Hawkins, Joel Selwood, Ian Nankervis, Jimmy Bartell, Corey Enright, and Sam Newman. So like it's crazy to me that we've seen 5 of the 7. That's what really just wigs me out. And they said on the night he's won 212 times in 300 games. I averaged it out. He's experienced an average of just 5.3 losses per season. So that's nuts. That is absolutely insane. Do you guys have any sort of thoughts about Mitch Duncan, his career, anything that stands out? Like, I'll never forget the goal against the Pies, coming on as the sub in the 2011 grand final. It was, a really important contribution. I don't know if anything else stands out to you, chaps.
It's sort of
specifically or
one of
just
those,
in general.
sort of one of those players that doesn't have those big moments. Like so many Cats players, you can say, don't have these huge, massive moments that really put him out there as these insanely talented, insanely gifted players. But he was just this player that was extremely skilled. As they said, he was extremely smart, wanted to learn everything and did. And you could see he still is learning and passing all that knowledge on. But he's just one of those players that was there to play that role. He knew what his role was to be, whatever the coach needed at the time. Happy to do it. Happy to do it now, even if he doesn't get as many touches or as many disposals, kicks, whatever. He's just happy to be out there, being a coach, being a part of this team. Yeah, I don't have many that just stand out, but just his whole career is just one of those ones that I think if we look back and look closely at all these games, there'd be so many highlights of Duncan. Like plenty of times where he hit up Hawkins, hit up Cameron Mooney. Not so many Cameron Mooney because he didn't play much with Cam. But yeah, especially him and Hawkins. It's always just knowing Mitch Duncan was always going to try and find Tom Hawkins and lay it out nearly perfectly every time. Like his kicking in his prime was up there as one of the best. And yeah, I just remember him for that. Not that he has retired yet, but you get that sense you definitely get that sense that this could be the farewell season. And if it is, well, what a season, what a career he's had. As you said, 212 wins out of 300. That is ridiculous, especially from 2010 to now, when we had that change of coach, change of players, all these new guys coming in. And yeah, I think a part of him winning all those games would be himself imparting his knowledge, his skills onto these young guys and his values as well. So yeah, I think a lot of that will be remembered from Duncan's time as just this, I'll say, father-like figure for these young guys, there to guide them on the right path.
There's a quote, Sambo, I just discovered on Wikipedia. Kevin Sheehan has complimented Duncan on possessing good foot skills on both sides of the body, showing an ability to read the game to advantage and make excellent decisions. Who does that sound like from the current crop of Geelong youngsters? I think you're muted.
You are muted.
I apologize. I Lawson, could you read my lips? Was I saying?
Yeah. Lawson. It has to be Lawson. And I've often thought.
And it was an Australian.
Like, yeah. And it's a funny thing. Like, I think like a lot of players at the end of their career, when they play, these sorts of outrageous totals in terms of games, by the end, they are much different to what they were at the start. And I think if you cast your mind back, like I think in 4 or 5 seasons in his early career at the Cats, Duncan was kicking like 20 goals a season. He was a dynamic link player. Like there was a lot of Lawson Humphreys, I think personally, about how a younger Duncan played in terms of he was just extremely slick personified. If you go back and watch, I think it's a game, I think it might be Chris Scott's first game in charge in 2011 against the Saints. Extremely disgusting, low-scoring game. I think the Cats win about 54-46 or something. But there's a moment, I'm sure I remember. It's just a display of Duncan's cleverness, the way he uses the ball. I can't remember if he slaps a ball along the ground to someone, or it's a clever underground sort of hand pass that results in a goal. Or maybe it's Duncan himself who finishes the move, but it was just like, oh man, I remember that player. Like we're going to remember him as sort of like dragging his way to 300 games at the end. But geez, he was a good player at his peak, like an A grade kind of player. So I really hope we send him off with a flag this year. That would be absolutely amazing. But we're a long way from that. But it's another, it's cool to look back on his career.
Stupid stat just for you. So his current winning percentage is 70.9, which is the 4th highest of any active player. He played in a loss in his 3rd career match, marking the only time that his career winning percentage, 66.67 at the time, has ever sat below 70%.
Jesus.
That's ridiculous. Yeah, what a career. I guess it's easy to focus on the people being the good part of footy when you're winning that much. Yeah. All right, Chad. I'm sure we'll talk more about Duncan like across the rest of the season. And I did really want to just take time at the start of the episode to focus in on him, because we know that so much of everything, even our coverage of the game, sort of it probably went by the wayside a little bit, just beneath the shadow of what was such a massive game. But yeah, I really wanted to highlight him because it's funny. I think I'm not the only one, Sambo. It sounds like you're the same, and Johnny as well, that there was a lot of Mitch Duncan in this game, and our thoughts about Mitch Duncan echoed around this result and what it means in a broader context of like, how the fuck, I don't know how they keep doing it, to be honest. I don't know how. I've spoken with some other footy fans before of like, how do you keep getting up for this? How do you keep staying hungry? Like I went back and broke down like Brisbane's dynasty. It was 5 years essentially, or 6 years. They went 92, 1 and 39 in home and away. They had 6 finals appearances in 6 seasons, 14 and 4 record in finals. They won 3 flags from 4 grand final appearances. Hawthorn, 2007 to 2018, essentially. They were making finals all the time, winning flags. 180 wins from just under 300 games. They made finals 10 times in 12 seasons, 16 and 10 record, 4 flags in 5 grand final appearances. Richmond, 2013 to 2022, they went 133, 3 and 79 home and away, 8 finals appearances in 10 seasons, a 10 and 6 record, 3 flags from 3 grand final appearances. Geelong's dynasty essentially spans 2004 to now, essentially. So from the end of Brisbane's reign, they've gone through Hawthorn's. We have seen Brisbane at their peak and drop. We've seen Hawthorn rise, fall, and now rising back again. We've seen Richmond go from the cellar to the top, back to the cellar. And here's Geelong, 323 wins, 131 losses, 4 draws in the home and away season. They've made 18 finals appearances in 21 seasons. They've played 47 finals in that time, 4 flags from 6 grand final appearances, 25 and 22 in those 47 games. A lot of people will ding the Cats for that, but they've got essentially more wins in finals than any of those other 3 dynasties played total.
Yep.
Like, you're playing at the business end every year. It's hard to win. And just this game, I don't know, chaps, it just left me going like, I don't know how they do it. I don't know how they get up. There was every reason to be overrun by a visiting team at the end there. But they didn't. They just went, nah, we're going to kick 3 goals.
I still think it's just that Joel Selwood ideals and values that has he instilled while he was captain of we're not giving up no matter what. And, Duncan was a huge part of that. Tom Hawkins was a huge part of that. Jeremy Cameron, Tom Stewart, Tom Atkins, all these guys who've played with Joel Selwood would all have that value of going, just because this team's coming hard and they're pushing us to the limit doesn't mean we're going to give up. We're going to fight to the bitter end no matter what. And you see that in every single game. Like, we're down and out, but it looks of it in like the third term, but they find a way to fight back and give ourselves every possible chance of winning. And I can't remember the last time I went into a game thinking we might not win this. I was going, if we got a chance, we're going to win this game.
Yeah.
There's no doubt in my mind that this team can win basically any game they go into. And it's a pretty crazy thought to think other fans would just be going, what do you mean? You go in thinking you can win every game? Other fans would be like, I'll just be going into a season going, can we win 5 games? It's like, to be a Cats fan is fun. It's awesome. To get, you're probably hated by 17 other clubs, which is fine by me. But yes, as you said, it's just crazy to think that they keep going back and back each year, and that hunger remains. And as I said, I think it's that Joel Selwood of doesn't matter where we are, we're going to fight till we can, until it's time runs out or we just can't. And I think he's made this club pretty special, and Duncan helped carry that on, and Tom Hawkins and all the other players I mentioned. So I think it all stems back to Selwood.
It was an interesting game. Just in terms of like what it meant. You were just saying, Jake, like in terms of the dynasty, but also in terms of the season. And I think it just felt like another test passed for me. Like most of what I would call the tests we've passed this year. The only game that we didn't win that I felt like was a failure was probably the Giants one. Just because they're a bogey team, they play at home well. I went into it a bit like you with this one, John, going, we could lose this one. So had we won that one would have felt like a real hurdle jumped. Some of the other losses this year, to like weird teams just is more chalked up to football is weird. Football's strange. Things happen. Teams have your number. And so but this one to me was a real like, yeah, we could lose this game. It's a team that has beaten us at home, so they're not one of those teams where we're like, well, we've got that up our sleeve though. We've got the home ground advantage up our sleeve. This team just has a bit of a thing with the Cats. Like it is a building. It's not like a real explosive, like fiery rivalry, but I do feel like it just slowly simmers and builds, and little things get added to the narrative. And every year, it feels like it's slightly more intense. And so there's that, and then there's the Bailey Smith thing, and then no danger. And also the Dogs are absolutely flying. Like leading into this game, everyone's saying they're the not only premiership contenders but potentially premiership favourites. They're in form. They have some outs, yes, but they have been flying with those outs. Do you know what I mean? Like it's not like they were. It's not like they lost Darcy last week or anything. So there was just so many factors where you could go, this just doesn't go our way, or you could even imagine the players kind of going, well, it's okay though, we did well. And so the fact that we played the way we did, we got the win, and that we didn't flog them either. I would have loved a flogging. That would have been great. That would have been so nice to sit back and watch us pummel them into the earth. But in terms of what it means for the year and where the Cats are at, I actually think it's more beneficial that the Dogs really came out swinging and changed some stuff, changed up their whole game style. I mentioned it to you guys during the game, and then first use, always shout out first use. I think probably once every second episode, I think we reference them. First use did a great video on like some of the stuff the Cats did as well, but specifically targeting what the Bulldogs shifted and how they changed their game style around the handballing. So he highlighted the way the Cats were overlap pressuring on the handballs to squeeze the ball out, make the Dogs have to handball faster, and the Dogs were trying to push forward. And that's what I said that to you guys during the broadcast. I was like, it was in the third quarter. I was like, they're hand passing backwards and laterally so much more. So they're still playing a high handballing game. And the second half of First Use's video is on exactly that, how the Dogs took what the Cats were throwing at them and shifted it essentially exactly the same game style, but just like an arc out, like a 180 arc out sideways. When they would get that first handball, it would be to the left or right or straight back, and then they'd go forward. And so the fact that the Dogs were on their game, I think, and tactically and intensity, skill-wise, all that stuff was on, and we still managed to answer that and win. It feels like another little, if you had a giant chart of all the little, like with 1,000 boxes on it that you need to tick to make yourself feel confident that you may win this year. Like it felt like this was one of the boxes on that chart. Like I'm not saying it's the box. I'm not saying we win this year, but it certainly felt like one that meant something for the season. Port Adelaide didn't necessarily mean something for the season, maybe. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What did you like? I was actually really impressed with that in the wake of the game. Was like that both teams really stuck to, like they might have changed things tactically during the game, but I don't feel like anyone ever really played in their fears. I don't know about you, Chaps, but like it just felt like two teams really going at it, blow for blow. Like, and they sort of stuck to their identity in a lot of ways. Like the Dogs kind of scored how we thought they'd score, a lot from clearance. I counted at least three of their 5 goals in that opening term from sort of straight out of clearance. And the Cats, it was all based on turnover and scoring from play after interceptions and turnovers. So I know, I just thought it was an interesting game in that it was a contrast of styles. But normally when you talk about a contrast of styles, it means one team's playing sort of dour and defensively and trying to yuck things up, and one team's trying to play fluent football. I thought both teams played an attacking brand of footy, but they just sort of went about it. Their method was slightly different. Did you enjoy that part of the game?
Immensely.
Yeah.
immensely. Yeah,
Hugely.
it was great, and like I said, that I think that relates to what I was saying about the Bulldogs, where it wasn't a change of game style, but it was just a shifting. It was like they didn't go from, oh, we're going to handball a lot, to suddenly, oh, we're going to kick it a lot, or we're going to really move it backwards in like a negative way. It was like, yeah, as you said, they stuck to their identity and just shifted it a bit. And I think the Cats did as well. And then there was some moments there where we slowed it down in the fourth, but not in a real negative, like, dragging the game down kind of way, but let's just starve them of some possession for a bit, to make them think, make them sweat a little bit, make them start running and chasing us a little bit harder because they're desperately trying to create some more chaos. And yeah, it really felt like massive physical contest with a real chess game going on above it. You know what I mean? Between the coaches, like I feel like they're two of the informed coaches, and they're also two of the coaches that will change stuff. Like I still would love to know what Mullen was on Richards. Did a fantastic job. I think kept into what was it, less than 10 disposals in a half, 6 in the first quarter, 2 or 3 in the.
Yeah, it's like
I didn't
I think he
see
got up
what his
to
first half
11
numbers ended up being.
Okay, yeah. It
half
was around
time.
about that. And then in the third quarter, he went nuts, and he didn't have Mullen on him anymore. And like I think they did roll Richards forward. They threw him into the forward line for a bit to maybe shake the tag, but that doesn't make me. I feel like Mullen would normally follow Richards, but Mullen seemed to remain in the middle. And there was allusions to it in the presser because they asked if Chris was happy with Mullen's performance, compared to like his work on Dacos, and then who was he on at Port? Was it again? I forget. Was it Rosie or was Butters? Butters, was it?
Butters,
Yeah,
I think. I think it was Butters. Yeah.
And Scott said, yeah, like they're happy with, but he said it's not necessarily a equivalent comparison. He said Mullen was playing a different had a different set of objectives tonight, basically. And I just love to know exactly what that was. Why did he disappear from Richards? Why was he on Richards? And is it just Chris Scott just like going, yeah, they shook the tail, and I'm just like, I'm going to pretend that this this is part of a master plan here. I don't know, but yeah, like it was. I don't exactly know what the point of that was, but just it was just the tactical changes. Like it did just seem like watching on the broadcast, and even if you're watching live, it feels like we were not privy to a lot of what went down to make that match happen, to make that result happen. Like even in the last quarter, the way the Cats, like the Bulldogs absolutely thumped them in clearances, and then they were thumping us in clearances, and then somehow we just managed to essentially just go, actually, no, sorry, we're going to win the clearances, and and won like 9 of the last 10. Like it just, same players out there for the most part, barring interchanges. You know what I mean? Like I don't even know if you could watch the broadcast and really pay attention and really know 100%. I'm sure there is smart, knowledgeable people that do, but it was one of those ones where I was like, yeah, is this just player intensity? Is this just the experience of the Cats? To just go, no, we're just going to play better and harder because it's the end. I think it's too simple to look at it that way. I think there's other stuff happening.
Yeah, definitely. There was definitely other things happening, but yeah, it was weird that as Mullen got shaken off, Richards order just moved him to another position to try something out. But yeah, he definitely had an influence. Richards did in that third quarter, a big influence alongside Bontempelli and Liberatore, the 3 big stars.
Isn't it weird? Like it felt like a game to me of like, we're not going to be able to, like you can't stop them all. Someone's going to get touches, someone's going to get clearances, and it's sort of the same from their perspective of like, the idea of starving Geelong's lineup, whether you're talking forwards or mids, of opportunity. It's like someone's going to get their opportunity, and then it comes down to how the opportunity gets taken. Like, so I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad no one sort of took a backward step. It was a great match, and so happy that we executed our shots up forward so well. Like that was crucial.
11 goals. between
But the defense,
Shannon Neal and Cameron, that's
yeah,
impressive.
yeah,
Very impressive.
absolutely. And I want to come directly to Shannon Neal in a moment. But first, I just wanted to talk to you guys. I just noticed this. Like, I'll often go through and look for stats, things that stand out to me, and something that popped for me was the defensive half pressure act for the Cats. We talk a lot about the Cats, their ability to sort of apply pressure in the front half. We're always looking at the tackles inside 50. I think I said before the game, I felt like an indicator of whether Geelong, would win the match would be in their tackles inside 50. I thought they needed sort of 12 to 20, and they got 9, which was well below their season average. In fact, it was the Dogs who probably applied more front half pressure, but the Cats had 214 pressure acts in their defensive half. You can compare that to the Dogs with just 101. There was obviously a lot of talk about the Dogs' inaccuracy on the night. I don't think that's a coincidence. Do you? Like, I think that Geelong applied a lot of pressure that led to the Dogs either taking less advantageous
Yeah.
shots or executing poorly because of
Yeah,
perceived pressure.
yeah, definitely. There was definitely a few moments where I thought the Dogs players took shots where they had an easy handball to a player who was very open, no pressure on him, could have run in, got an easy goal, but they just sort of had that idea of, I've got to get this goal through before I get tackled. They didn't see those players there.
Mm.
But it just happened throughout the night. And when you bring up the defensive pressure acts, that explains a lot of why that would be happening. That just that perceived pressure of just knowing that you could get tackled, holding the ball, you don't have a shot. Why not just get in the boot, see what happens? A point's a point. It might be the game-winning point. You never know. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense because I was wondering why the Dogs were having all these shots where they had players that were in really advantageous positions to have an easy shot. But this Cats defense is well set up, well structured. We had Stewart back. Didn't play his best game, but you don't need Stewart there to play his best game to still have a big influence on the rest of the group. And I thought he did alongside Jack Henry, Hughes. Since Henry's been back, the defensive group has seemed a lot more settled. Yeah, it was still a big score kicked on us as well, but we got that bigger score in the end, which matters, and we're able to, as we just said, pressure them into having more shots that weren't advantageous to what they were hoping for. And
I think
we're able to get those easier shots more often.
I think both teams probably would have liked to have let the other team score less for sure. But I think if one team had have focused more effort towards negating the weapons of the other team, then I think that's the team that's going to lose because I think they had to fight fire with fire, like we've sort of been saying all night, like stick to game plan, essentially try and outshoot them. Both sides have way too much talent. Like I think that I don't think the Dogs applied a tag at all. And I think I can't remember if it was in the press conference with Beveridge or if that it was discussed anyway of like the Dogs generally don't tag, and even if they did, do you tag Smith or do you tag Holmes? And if you tag Holmes, then Smith's getting away with it. And I think it's the same with the Dogs as well. A little bit like you were saying, you can't tag them all, and it goes for the same in the forward line as well. You can't just constantly be thinking about how we're going to remove their assets. You've also going to be thinking about what you're bringing to the table. And yeah, I think that's huge. I think there's been a big talk about the Dogs' inefficiency, but when you think about easy, high percentage, like 90+% shots, I would say both teams probably missed about the same amount. Like of those kind of like set shot directly in front. Like the Cats probably missed about 4, and I reckon the Dogs maybe they missed 5 or 6. Just absolute time to think about it. Easy shot sitters, but a lot of theirs were this pick it up, smack it on the boot kind of thing. The tackle numbers in general, like compared to season averages, Dogs 76 tackles on a 55.7 season average, Cats 78 tackles on a 66.6 season average. Highly pressurized game in general, and yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head in terms of why they were sort of squeezing out so many shots, not instead of laying off an easy hand pass to someone on a lead or someone running around the back to take a slightly more advantageous shot. But I think the tackles with the Cats and those pressure acts, the pressure acts probably more so than the tackles necessarily. Relating back to that first half, and I urge everyone again to go and watch that first use video because although it's more about the Dogs, it does demonstrate how well the Cats were pressuring in that first half, and it also relates to what we often talk about when people are like, "Oh, you didn't tackle hard enough, didn't stick the tackles, land the tackles, blah blah," and how you've got to like know who is tackling, when they're tackling, how to tackle. Because if you're off on any one of those, if you're for a millisecond thinking, "Oh, do I tackle? Is this my player?" If you're thinking, "Does he have the ball? Is this going to be a legal tackle? Can I tackle him yet?" If you're thinking, like anything like that, do I tackle now? Do I tackle? Like it's got to
too
be.
late.
Yeah, exactly. It's way too late. And the way the Cats were in this flow state, I can't describe it very well. I tried to describe it to Jake with Lego pieces the other day on the floor. I had them laid out, and even that was ineffective. But just this overlapping, the way that they were hitting the charge, not necessarily the tackle. It wasn't. It almost rarely was an actual tackle. It was more just get to the player. But with this 100% confidence that when they should tackle, that it was them that should be laying the tackle, and that they were covered, that the teammate overlapping them was now taking the option, the player that they were peeling off. It's beautiful. It's like it's some of the most brilliant defensive like teamwork. Often not in the back 50, but in our back half along the wing. Like it's if you don't have time to rewatch the game and look for it, just go and look at some highlights or look at that first use video because it's and I think that all adds up to this feeling, especially in that first half of the Dogs just going, we have zero time. We have absolutely no time. And so even when they did have time, that classic, the old perceived pressure.
Tell you what, Tom Stewart's just made an absolute fool of me, saying that he didn't have one of his best games. He's had 21 disposals, 469 meters gained, a tackle, a clearance. Like
I mean, to be fair,
that's
probably
Tom
not
Stewart.
one of his best games,
No.
which is what's crazy. It's like you're not wrong.
81% efficiency. It's like, it's crazy that is not one of his better games. They still had a massive influence. The other stat that I love about the tackles is every single Cat had a tackle with 7 players having only laid 1 tackle. Everyone else was 2 or higher.
Shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Every single player for the Cats laid at least a tackle. With obviously Tom Atkins leading away with just a lazy 12. 109 tackles for the year.
Isn't the next
109.
closest on
Yeah.
80 something? Like 82 or something?
81.
And it's Sean Manor. Oh, no.
Yeah.
Utterly ridiculous. Tom Stewart is
Yeah.
he's underrated as anything. Like, I love that you've brought it up a few times, Jake. But I love that last few centre clearances where they had Ed Richards, Livatore, Bontempelli in the middle commentators going, the Bulldogs have got the big guns in the centre to get this ball inside the forward 50. Tom Atkins wins the clearance nearly every time. Like, he's just such a talent.
It was just a great example. Yeah, 5 clearances, 16 touches, 12 tackles, and a goal for Tom Atkins. And yeah, it was a great moment because they weren't just sort of hyping up, the Dogs midfielders. It was, Smith and Holmes and Bont and Libba, and they're all around the ball, and congestion occurs. Who comes out with it? Tom Atkins. Perennially overlooked. And I think it is those players at the fringe for the Cats that really made big differences. And I mean, I thought the Dogs had some brilliant contributors. I thought it was the first time I'd really seen James O'Donnell play. I thought he played really well. I
Yep.
thought Matthew Kennedy was absolutely
Oh,
incredible.
Blues would
I
be
would have
kicking
thought
themselves.
he might have been close to best on ground from a Dogs perspective. 25 touches,
Easily.
3 goals and 5 clearances. Ed Richards looks great. I thought Buku Kamas looks really good.
Yep.
2 goals, 1. But I think what the Cats found were just maybe a little bit extra from those players at the edge, at the margins, a little deeper into the rotation. I thought Geelong just probably got a little bit more from a few more players, and that's a good stat, Johnny. Like about the tackles, there were every Cat laid at least 1 tackle. There were 3 Dogs who didn't lay a tackle at all. I was just looking at the shots at goal accuracy, Sambo, to back up
Ted
your
Closely, sorry. Got a clearance.
yeah. Yeah, clearance, a tackle, and 2 touches. Only on the ground for 8% of game time.
And one
pretty
of the
important
best
tackle
freeze
too.
4 of the game.
Oh,
Yeah,
that tackle.
but yeah, as far as like goal accuracy, I think what probably, the Cats had 4 players go at 50% or worse goal accuracy. The Dogs had, I think, 7 players go at 50% or worse. But the problem for them was, I think there was 4 players who went at 0% of those players, maybe even more. It might have been 6 of the 7, or something like that, went at 0% goal accuracy. So, yeah, really great execution from the Cats. We're going to move into votes, chaps.
Yep.
I reckon let's just do votes unless you've got anything else you want to talk about, because the next things I want to talk about are player performance. So it probably just makes sense. And I think, look, both of the players I want to talk about are in my votes anyway. So I reckon let's rip the Band-Aid and jump into votes, and anything else we can empty out on the Patreon part of the show. So it's time now for votes for players who stood out to us and did other stuff good too. Sambo, lead us off. What was your 1, 2, 3?
Can I be unusual and just ask John who his 1 is?
Shannon Neal.
Okay, cool. I'll go ahead. I just wanted. My 1 is I've got Atkins at 1. I've got Bailey Smith with 2, and I've got Max Holmes with 3. Stiff not to put Neil in. Stiff not to have Cameron in.
Oh, this week's
stiff
votes
not
were
to have-
tough.
Stiff not to have Myers in. To be honest.
Do you know what's a classic one is? I've just seen the coaches' votes on Twitter. This is the first time since game day I've been on Twitter. Jeremy Cameron got the most coaches' votes, chaps. Bailey Smith received only 5 coaches' votes total. Now, the floating theory is that
I wonder what
Chris
coach
Scott
didn't
gave
vote
the 5. Yeah, very interesting. So my guess would be
petulant coaches out there, could there?
that Chris Scott gave 5 to Smith, 4 for
Cameron.
4 for Cameron, and then Bevo has given 5 to Cameron, and zip zap zippity doo dah none for Bailey Smith. That anyway, let's steer away from that.
Am I cooked?
The running theory.
Give me your votes. Am I cooked for not having Cameron in my votes? You guys go on.
No,
I don't think so. You go, Johnny.
As I said, Shannon Neal is my 1. My 2 is Bailey Smith, and my 3 is Max Holmes.
My 1 is Shannon Neal. My 2 is Bailey Smith. My 3 is Max Holmes.
Okay.
So no, I don't think you cooked for not having Cameron in your vote, Sambo. I thought he was excellent. Let's start with Neil. Like I felt like, right, Sambo, if you've got extra thoughts to add on the Atkins front, we did talk about him a bit at the end there, but first off, Johnny and I with Big Shannon Neil, like I thought it's that classic Sam adage of like, what does that player's best game look like? And if they play it, they've got to be pretty close to the votes. Like, I don't know for you, Johnny, but that looked like pretty much the closest we've seen to peak Shannon Neal. Is that why he got into yours?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been on his behind him all season. Been a big supporter of Big Shannon Neal, thinking that he's going to be our next big superstar full forward, and we got that glimpse of it this weekend of what he can provide when he's firing at nearly all cylinders. Like that was probably the perfect game you would want from a full forward at this stage of his career. That big run in across Mark, just arms above the head, clunked it cleanly, 5 straight goals, athletic, great in the ruck, good leading up, and inserting himself in the game at crucial moments as well. But he had some really impressive moments throughout this game, and he didn't shy away. He looked like he was loving every second of that game. And as you guys said, he spoke extremely well in the interview. Dan didn't really think it was his best game. He was like, yeah, it was probably up there as one of my best. So it just speaks of a well-grounded, well-rounded guy who's just going to get better from there. But yeah, this was a really impressive performance, and it just seems like a really impressive guy off the field as well. Well-mannered, happy, go-lucky guy who's keen to play the next game. And yeah, I was super happy, super proud of what he achieved, and really looking forward to what he can do with this team going forward. Like, he is a bright future ahead of him. And yeah, I'm so glad that happened against the Bulldogs. Like, it was a big game and he stood up big time.
Do you know what pushed it over the line for me was that the scores were level. He kicked the next 2 goals. Scores tied, with 20 minutes to with 10 minutes to go. Shannon Neal goes bang, bang in the space of 4.5 minutes. Essentially, he gets 2 goals that kill the game. Yeah, I thought he was just absolutely brilliant. We gave Cameron votes last week, and so I don't know. I tossed it up between the two. I thought the context of when he kicked his goals were just so friggin' crucial that those last 2 goals put him over the line for me. And it's the other stuff he does as well. And I think he's right when he says he doesn't know if it was his best game or it was probably his best game. I think he's done games we've talked about at Chaps where you can look at other parts of the game when he's not kicking goals, when Danger and Cameron are kicking the goals, but it's like, oh, he's had a couple of contested marks. He's actually won a bunch of hitouts to advantage when you look about the percentage of hitouts he's attended to hitouts won. I think we said last week that he leads the Cats for hitouts to advantage percentage in terms of the percentage of hitouts to advantage he has. I think he's the best at the Cats this season. So yeah, there's lots of other ways in which he contributes to the game. Tackles inside 50 for a big forward, very, very well. So yeah. Sambo, do you have anything to add to Act? Yeah, go.
I was just gonna say, Scotty said that when he was asked about Neil in the presser. He said that it was a great game, but he's like, and we're willing. We've always been willing to be patient for him to like develop, but like that he's been playing an important role for the team for a long time. So that basically alludes to what you're saying. I don't really have anything to add to Atkins. I suppose. I guess just the thing that tipped him over the edge. And as I said, if Johnny had Atkins with 1 vote, I may have changed. Like I would love to squeeze everybody in there. I do feel bad that Cameron's got none. Because he was huge. I agree. Like I said to you on Saturday, Jake, after I said, I think Neil's performance may have been the more damaging of the forwards. Like, obviously, there's no knock on Cameron. Like, Cameron not getting votes and this discussion. Like, it's, I love Jezza and I'm loving that he's in form. And had he, it's more or less tokenism, really, that he got some last week. So I was like, oh, I better not give him give it to him again. But yeah, I just felt like some of what Neil did, I guess because he hasn't done some of it before, it was more impressive. And because of the moments when he kicked the goals. But to be fair, kick that epic running goal, which I also think I probably thought was slightly impressed me more because of how out of nowhere where it was, more than the Holmes go. But like, to be fair on Cameron, it was Cameron that bloody kicked the ball to him. So it's like for every time you want to put one over the other, you got to be aware. But for Atkins, I think obviously there's just favoritism at play. But also in a game where our pressure was so good, our tackles were so high, but also the tackles and the pressure was so important, I just felt a little obligated to give a vote to the best pressuring tackling player in the game. Do you know what I mean? When the game is won in a certain way, I feel like I had to give chocolates to the guy that demonstrated that way the best.
Yeah.
12 tackles, like, you know, and
Yeah.
and again he kicked a really important goal, like a goal that you could tell
So
that
happy.
he would love to pass that off, but he's starting to have a little more faith in himself as someone that can just step back, and he's never going to kick 5 in a game, but he can step back, you know, and slot one,
It's
like, you know, average half a goal a game kind of thing.
it's that
I just
natural
love him.
leader.
Yeah,
really starting to show.
I just love him, and I like I said, it's favoritism at play, and I will be honest, I do look for him so much when watching the game, so I just notice what he does so much.
I'm the same. Don't
So
worry.
I understand any criticism on me putting him above Neil and Cameron, but just it is
Uh,
the way it is.
I gave
Fuck
him
off.
2 votes for the exact same reasons. One time this season.
Yeah.
Exact same reasons, just because I wanted to.
Well, yeah, Bailey Smith. 2 votes from all of us.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
33 disposals, 25 by foot, 8 by hand, 4 marks, 7 tackles, 6 clearances, 810 meters gained, and a goal assist. Did everything but hit the scoreboard, really. And I was just trying to see if I had his pressure acts there. Do I have his pressure acts? I do. 25, second most for the team behind who? Who had more pressure acts than Bailey Smith? Oh,
I can't
Tom Atkins.
imagine.
The guy
Yeah,
who
for
made
me,
100 tackles.
what keeps impressing me about Bailey Smith this season is just the fucking work rate. Just his work rate to be that link player and keep hunting the ball and yeah, he's been exceptional. Could not have asked for it to go more perfectly on field, really, from his perspective through whatever it is, 10 games, 11 games. So yeah, an obvious 2 votes for me. Anyone got anything to add to the Bailey Smith?
Um,
No, I just that I was impressed with his maturity. Like,
Yeah.
we've thrown that into question a lot, and we were sort of interested to see how this was going to go. And yeah, like he handled himself really well. I thought he definitely didn't wilt under the pressure, under the limelight. Like, I wouldn't say that it seemed like he was shy about it, but I think less worrying about the repercussions or the, you know, the fines or the backlash from the Bulldogs. And I do think this is pure conjecture. I think he became aware of how much he was overshadowing Duncan, the Duncan milestone. And I feel like that's the biggest factor in him pulling his head in for this game. Unfounded conjecture, but that's just how I feel about it. So yeah, I don't think it's the last time we're going to see him in the headlines for something questionable, but it's nice to know that he's got this in him, and that he can still play at that level without it. Do you know what I mean? Because that's the other thing.
Yeah.
Sometimes you go, do they need? Is that part of their process, being a bit of a pest and like just amping themselves up? But I thought he impacted the game as much as previous weeks, but with such a level head, and just didn't get sucked in by anything that the Bulldogs were trying to. And the Bulldogs were pretty good, to be fair.
Yeah.
But
was
anything that
only
they
really
did try to do,
Liver that was sort of giving a bit
and
of
it was
rough and
brotherly,
tumble, but
right? It reminded
it
me of
was
two
nothing.
brothers that were like, they wouldn't stop fighting, but they weren't ever really trying to hurt each other. It was just
No,
like,
I don't think it just to me it just seemed like that natural AFL thing. Like they lay a tackle and they're just trying to get him off them after the tackle, or they're just a bit frustrated that they got tackled, and it's just like, I'm not going to take it on you. I don't think Liver was going after him because he was Bailey Smith. I think it was just, it's football. It happens in every single game. You see those little jumper pulls and pushes and, pushing players off. But yeah, like Bailey Smith, another game that, again, I've said it nearly every single week that put him in the votes. We've asked him to do this since round 2, and he's delivered every single round since then, and delivered at extremely high professional level. Like, he's just been incredible, and what a pickup, what a player. And each week, that belief that he could be that player to help deliver a premiership for the Cats, it just keeps growing bigger and bigger for me. But yeah, it's hard. It's basically impossible to ignore that he's could be that player to really lift this team to the ultimate success yet again.
Yeah, and there's another reason, player who was playing sort of right next to him, Max Holmes. I was thinking about this. Bailey Smith, 24. Max Holmes is 23. Like, the idea of Geelong's aging midfield has all of a sudden gone zoop, in the space of a couple of seasons. Potentially more players to come out. There's been, discussion about could Ollie Dempsey eventually go on ball, something we've talked about on the pod, and then was alluded to, I think, in an interview with Chris Scott, that it's something they've considered. You think about a player like Lawson Humphreys has also been mentioned as, he could potentially spend time on ball. Like, suddenly Geelong, they've just flipped the script on their list in the space of a handful of seasons. But Max Holmes, I absolutely loved watching Chris Judd when he was with the Eagles in the early 2000s. I wrote this in the notes. The dashing run through the paint of 50 to slot a goal with a hairline that's barely clinging to the scalp was one of my favourite sights in football in the early 2000s. And I thought on Thursday night, Max Holmes delivered his best impression with that goal. But, like, it's the moment of magic. And then equal team high 33 touches, team high 8 clearances, career high 17 contested possessions. I thought he was absolutely outstanding, Chaps. And eventually 3 vote getter.
We don't have one player that, like, shoulders the games very often, like, and I guess most football clubs don't. But, like, I think it's such a team effort. But I do think that I might pin him as the difference maker. I might pin him as the player that, had he not done what he did, we may not have won. Had they tagged him to oblivion, I'm not sure if Smith's impact would have fully covered it. Whereas I feel like, had they tagged Smith, I think Holmes' impact was immense. Like, I think he was so damaging, and really felt to me like they didn't have any answers for him, the way that they maybe were wrestling with some of our other offensive weapons, and the way they were wrestling with Smith even. That was a bit more of a battle all night of, like, Smith, he walks a razor's edge between, getting caught holding the ball and getting off a disposal sometimes. And that continued, whereas Holmes just felt like anytime he got the ball, it more or less felt like, okay, this is a free couple of meters in the disposal. Do you know, like, it just felt like, all right, we've got that one in the bank. He's about to gain some meterage and then kick it. So yeah, he was just on another level. I think the game style just suited him really well. I think Smith has liberated him. We've talked about this a lot, about how other players liberate other players, and I do think he's not having to shoulder any kind of Selwood or Dangerfield burdens or anything like that. Like Holmes, like, I don't think he's like, oh, he's got to do this, he's got to get more of this, he's got to get more of that. He's just kind of able to live his best life and be the best version of himself. And I think this is close. This is close to the perfect Max Holmes game, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, he definitely seems freer with Bailey Smith there. He seems more confident. And I reckon he's learning a lot from Smith as well, even though Smith is only a year older, but that's a year older in the football system, a year older to know how it all works out. So yeah, I think this is going to be a great team up partnership for these two for a long time. Even though Max Holmes looks like he's close to his 35th birthday already with this hairline at the moment. But as Jake said,
I've got quite a high hairline.
yeah, same here. But You know, yeah, as
We'll,
Jake
we'll have to
said.
take a
It's-
3-man trip to Turkey one.
As-
One episode of the Chaps will all just turn up with really fantastic hair. Like,
Yeah.
what's happened here? Something's different.
But
Back
as
from
Jake said,
Istanbul.
sometimes there's not a better sight than seeing that hairline running down, bouncing the ball, just
scalp.
outpacing an opponent. And the crazy part was it didn't even look like he was running that fast.
No,
Just
everyone's
looked like he
talking
was
about
having a
how good that goal was, and I feel like my appreciation is maybe lessened by the fact that he did it too easily. He should have let him catch up
Yeah.
a bit. it
But
didn't even look that impressive. It's just like I can do that.
It's one of those ones that's like the moment, what it meant for the Cats, what it meant for the game, made it so much better. But I watched it in isolation in the AFL's top 10, and he watched back on it and go, oh, it's just a running goal. There's
Just
nothing.
outstrips all of them.
Yeah.
No, like this is what is impressive about it is the angle where you look at him backwards, and it
Yeah.
doesn't look like he's efforting at all. But if you look at the Bulldogs trying to
He's-
chase him, then you will see some effort.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
you'll get an appreciation. It's like in
And
movies where like they've got to make a character run faster, so they tow a line of carpet behind a car, and so that actor can just run at normal speed, but the carpet is moving along under them, so they're not actually running any faster, but they will outstrip the other person. That's what it looked like. It looked like he was running
Yeah.
at normal speed, but being towed on a line
And-
of carpet.
And he knew it. I love the fact that he knew he was faster. He knew he had this guy dusted, and it's just like, I'm just gonna jog. Like, yeah, it's so
You could-
impressive.
The stats actually haven't been updated on AFL tables, so I think once they are, in a lot of statistical categories by average, he will be having a career best season.
Nice.
Statistically, I
like-
think he'll be
I mean,
averaging.
Yeah.
I think he'll be averaging career high disposals. I think he'll be averaging career high marks. I think he'll be averaging career high tackles, clearances, running bounces, contested possessions, etc., etc. So, like, that's pretty crazy to think.
Yeah.
Mm.
And just quickly back on Smith, we've talked about a lot of his stuff, and I think we did touch on his defensive work, but it's maybe slightly overlooked as well how much Smith is doing defensively. And just from a personal point of view, for him, like he's career high in like basically all the not every defensive statistic, because some of them don't count, like contested defensive one-on-ones. We don't care what he's averaging with
Yeah.
those. But in terms of tackles inside 50 pressure acts, and defensive half pressure acts, he's easily career high in all four of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely
So
smashed it.
pretty nice spot for the Cats, having Bailey Smith, Max Holmes, and Tom Atkins all playing career best footy around the ball. That's pretty nuts
It's good.
when you think
It's
about
pretty
it.
good.
Please, folks, add a healthy Toby Conway to that mix in 2026. You're cooking with gas. Add it to us down the stretch, maybe. With Reece Stanley, I've got to say, he had to go back to the crypt for a little bit, but like, they open up the crypt and Reece, yeah, that is Reece
Stangers.
Stanley's music. Yeah, big Stangers, Count Stangers has emerged from his gothic mansion, and just biting necks left, right, and center. I thought he almost got my one vote. Reece Stanley.
He almost got a broken neck, is what he almost got.
Yeah.
I was shocked
Yeah,
to see him
that was-
in another play, like a couple of minutes later. Like it was like, oh my god, it's Stanley. I honestly thought he had been carted off to the left of screen.
Back to his crypt.
Yeah,
He thought he was done for real life.
into the back to tank.
Yeah.
Love it. No.
Uh.
All right, that's it. We've done plenty here on the public show. I think we're going to nip
Maybe too much.
behind the silk curtain. That's right. We've said too much. So if you want to join us behind the silk curtain,
Are entitled to their sexual proclivities.
you'd be most welcome to. Just got to go over to the Hoops Crew, sign up for a 7-day free trial on the Patreon. Come over. We're trying to hit 50 Patreon subscribers of the paid variety by the end of the season. think we're at about 36, 37. So come on, we only need a baker's dozen. Be one of those people. We'd love to see you over there. We're going to go there now and talk the rest of the show. So thanks for tuning in. Till next Tuesday. See you next Tuesday. Go Cats.
Go Cats!